could air a TV spot, we could do one print ad, and we pretty much had the audience covered because there wasn't that two-way dialogue. But now when we start to look at the landscape, especially how mobile has absolutely changed the landscape, we have so many more abilities to provide more relevant content to that mom, and also ways that we have to reach her. So no longer are we able to just have 2 or 3 or 4 modalities as part of our media plan. We really need to make sure that we are where mom is in the areas that are appropriate so that we can kind of make that connection and be top of mind when she's looking for a vacation destination for her family. As part of that, you know, we've heard a lot about the main channels, but we're really looking across 3 broad areas of how can we reach her through paid advertising, which is everything from TV to even how we utilize search engine marketing, to our owned platforms, which is all of our websites, our mobile sites, our educational content that we prepare for schools and curriculum development, as well as the blogs that we run, and then even our programming like Sea Rescue that appears on Saturday mornings. But then so important is word of mouth, and I think you heard it yesterday in Ron's presentation. Word of mouth, whether it's traditional, you've just talked to your friend, or it's those TripAdvisor, those third-party sites where you're really looking for reviews. They have so much credibility that we have to figure out ways, and we have to be in those spaces as well. And as such, we have dramatically changed how we dedicate our resources to make sure that we are where mom is. And so, whereas we probably used to spend more than 50% of our money on TV, we really now are looking at more like a 30% share of TV and spending more than 40% of our resources attached to digital, which really includes mobile, search, everywhere that mom is. Online video, as people start to kind of cut that cable cord and then just stream videos, is really important to us. The other consumer insight that we tap into is extensive segmentation. So not only do we know who our mom is, where she is geographically, we know a lot about her psychographically. We know that she's an active mom, she's multitasking, her kids are her main priority, but then also that education and connections are very important to her. So we start to look at all of that segmentation, and it really does help us influence the types of programming we're on, the times that we're on that programming, how we geo-target mom on her mobile devices, and then even the social profiles, so that if I know that Nicole, for example, is a certain type of mom and she likes SeaWorld, I can kind of know a little bit more about her personality style so that I can find more like-minded moms just like her, more willing and able to connect with the SeaWorld brand. From a digital focus, we utilize things like online travel agents that are your Expedias, your Hotels.coms, everywhere that you might look to research vacation opportunities that are available to you. We do a lot of competitive conquesting, so if you happen to come to San Antonio and you're looking for things to do in San Antonio, we may be able to follow you in a digital platform and be able to remarket to you afterwards. But all of that is a great foundation for us to help say, now what opportunity, what do we have coming on board that we can help promote to moms? So for us, we really are a very exciting destination. We work very closely with the San Antonio Convention and Visitors Bureau. San Antonio is growing unbelievably. We have such a rich level of history. The Alamo is getting ready to be awarded World Heritage status, which is really a coup for the city itself. We have strong CVB support, and then moving into next year, we're actually even getting a new convention center. So our tourism outlook for the next couple of years really looks very strong. But we absolutely have competition. And so competition for us is not what you might think as a regular another theme park. Competition is really anything that competes with our target's audience leisure time, right? We live in such a busy society right now that you really are choosing between dance classes, baseball practice, soccer practice, and then trying to squeeze in some fun family time. So not only do we have the Alamo and Riverwalk in San Antonio, but things like Main Event, huge bowling alleys, and then even a new destination called Top Golf, which is this amazing 3-story high family golfing experience. So trying to make sure we are aware of who our competitive set is really important as we start to differentiate the experiences that we have. For us, there are a couple of key markets that make up a dramatic portion of how successful we are. And we really look, again, to prioritize our markets to make sure that we're honing into markets that have a lot of our target audience. So we're looking for families, markets that have a lot of families in them. And then look for people that are looking for those reasons to visit and the value that we provide. And value is not always a coupon or just a great deal, even though our consumers are still looking for those great deals. Value is just feeling like they got an experience that was worth their time and their money, and that's so important today. Luckily for SeaWorld San Antonio, we have so much new coming on board, which is incredibly exciting. We just last week opened up a brand new area called Pacific Point Preserve, which is home to sea lions and otters. It also has a brand new show as part of that. If you've ever been to a SeaWorld park, we have Clyde and Seymour, and they tend to be, again, a little bit of a more comical, fun show for guests to watch that are a children's favorite. Balancing that out, in next year we are introducing a new section of our park called Discovery Point, and it will give guests the opportunity to actually swim with dolphins, which is something that's not currently available out in the Southwest. And I've got a quick little video. Let's see if this will work here. We'll do it this way. In addition to being able to swim with dolphins, we're also then kind of changing the habitat completely and giving our guests the opportunity to really see more of their habitat, underwater viewing, to get them, again, up close and helping them make connections and seeing truly what their habitats are like. It also is an opportunity for us to be able to, stand by. You don't need to see that again. Reintroduce a lot of our animal programs. So one of the things that is truly SeaWorld's point of difference is how close you can get to the animals and all of the different interaction experiences that you can have, including a sea lion interaction program. And so I'll share this one last video with you before we get into some creative discussions. So at our parks, you are able to experience the animals much more closely. You can have swim interactions with not only our dolphins, but our beluga whales, with our sea lions, as well as with our penguins. And something that we're also introducing in San Antonio, not until 2021. In California, it's coming in 2018, but is dramatically expanded killer whale habitats that will truly allow you to see more into their habitat area, give them look. Oh, wait, sorry. Nope. Oh, there we go. Sorry about that. Technical difficulties here. There we go. Stand by. I don't want to get stuck to the, there we go. Again, giving a much deeper view into the habitats of our animals and providing more transparency into how they're cared for. So with all of the new that we've got going on, we have a lot to talk about, but we also have some brand reputation challenges that we've been experiencing lately. So we've had a heightened sense of animal activism in the marketplace. We also have a film called Blackish that I'm sure many of you heard about that we'll talk about. And then just public opinion. So how do we go out there as a company that is innovative and launching new products? How do we go out there and talk to people that are actively campaigning against us? And trying to understand how much of that is the true population versus a very small group of activists. And so we've really done a lot of research and development to understanding what our challenges are. For 50 years, SeaWorld has been a member of the American Zoological Association. Unfortunately, it's not something that we have really gone out. It's always been a known fact, but it's not something we've ever gone out and marketed, that we are highly accredited and we are highly regulated by the U.S. government. And so one of the things that we are really starting to make sure that we do is communicate all of the affiliations we have and our high standards of care moving forward. We are a leader in animal care, and we have unbelievable professionals on our team, from zoologists to marine biologists to even then behavioral scientists who work with the animals. They truly are leaders in their field. They're called upon again and again by industry experts to help. Right now they're rescuing sea lions that have been affected by the Southern California oil spill. We were there during BP's oil spill during the Gulf of Coast, truly giving expert advice to the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Services to make sure that our expertise on caring for animals is brought out to help animals that are in the wild. And then we do a lot of work on rescue and rehabilitation of our animals, really making sure that if we are called to assist in the rehabilitation of an animal, like a manatee that just was rescued off of Houston, that we're able to care for that animal and then release them as quickly as possible back into the wild. So how do we create a compelling message, especially in this climate that we're in right now? And the approach that we've taken is truly a dual approach. One that is focusing on who we are as a company, dispelling some of the claims that the movie Blackfish made about us, really focusing on what those important messages are for our consumers. And that's a long-term brand building effort that we're undertaking. The second is, how do we then also communicate everything that's new? So how do we communicate the reasons why you might want to visit a theme park? And so they both work very strongly in tandem together. Specifically on the reputation side, our Ask SeaWorld campaign really helps drive that two-way conversation. You can tweet to at Ask SeaWorld any question you want, and we will have one of our members, or either a zoologist, a veterinarian, answer any question that you might have. And we've literally had tens of thousands of questions asked, and we'll answer any question that you put out there. We are trying to make sure that we answer all your questions and then also share truths. And I think they really are focused around three key areas of what the activists have been targeting against us that we feel have been misleading. We have the highest standards of animal care, and we just want to make sure that people and our consumers know that, and that we get the message out to them if they have concerns about that. We also have been undertaking campaigns to talk about the lifespan of whales in our habitats, because our whales live as long in captivity as they do out in the wild, and that was one of the mistruths that was spread in the movie Blackfish. And then the third option that we're also talking about is that we separate mother and calf whales. I don't know if any of you have kind of heard that in the news, but we really don't. There are times that we will separate older adult populations to give them and have them create new family populations, but we do not separate mothers from their children. So you might have seen some of this, and we'll play this video as well, but we really have an aggressive campaign out there with national cable advertising. Again, just encouraging people to find out, engage in dialogue, ask questions, and we'll answer. We just don't want the story to be one-sided anymore. And then we've taken, again, a little bit more of a zoological approach to the facts. If you think that we don't care for our animals, we want to be able to tell you and answer any questions or concerns that you might have. And we'll just play this one quick video. Let's see if it will go to YouTube for us.
Most people don't realize that the vast majority of our killer whales were born in our care. Behind me is Kalia and her 4.5-month-old calf, Amaya. She is just one of over 30 successful killer whale calves we've had born in our parks. Recently, we got a question on this exact topic from Sammy on Twitter. Sammy asks, so you say you don't collect the whales from the wild. Where do they come from then? Thank you for your question, Sammy. The truth is, SeaWorld hasn't collected a killer whale from the wild in over 35 years. For your reference, that's back when President Carter was in the White House. I understand that some people are uncomfortable with the fact that killer whales were once taken from the wild, but the world has changed a lot since then, and we have changed with it. So we want to share more about how our killer whales are helping us to protect our counterparts in the wild.
There are a lot of different groups that are saying things like, well, there's nothing that we can learn from whales in captivity. In the case of my research, that's absolutely not the case.
PETA and other critics of SeaWorld have said that there's no value in keeping killer whales in captivity. Now, I disagree with that.
My area of expertise is bioacoustics, which is understanding animal communication and perception, and I'm interested in the dialects of killer whales.
My research focuses on trying to understand natural carbon monoxide levels that are produced in mammals.
Our work on heart rate is allowing us to develop the tools to examine the electrocardiogram and actually know that we're getting an accurate record of heart rate in the animals while they're diving. Once we've accomplished this here at SeaWorld, we can now use these techniques when we go to sea and put these on animals at sea to see how these animals are able to dive as deep and as long as they do.
The work that we're doing is important for helping to manage the killer whales in the wild because we're learning about the flexibility and the adaptability of their dialect system in a way that you really can't. You can't plan an experiment like this in the wild.
Having whales at SeaWorld is a great opportunity for scientists like myself to come here and collect very controlled samples that are otherwise impossible to collect in the wild.
Those are just 3 examples of more than a dozen research projects we're working on to benefit killer whales everywhere. We're proud of the work that we've done, but we're committed to doing even more. That's why we recently announced we're investing $10 million, the largest private investment of its kind, for studying and protecting killer whales in the wild. The truth is, we love these whales. We've dedicated our lives and careers to giving them world-class care today and for years to come. Thanks again for the question, and keep them coming.
Now I'm going to get back to it. So I think one of the challenges that we've had is we have done this for years. We have participated in federal studies for years on many of our animals. Some of the killer whale research that we're doing right now is trying to understand with lactating mom whales, what is their milk composition and how much nutrients, how much salmon, how much fish do they need to have to really have good quality milk for their offspring. And that's critically important for whales that are off the coast of Seattle and Vancouver, because knowing how much fish intake they need, we can understand if the salmon populations in the external environment are sufficient to maintain healthy birth populations. And so I think the biggest challenge for us and the biggest surprise, we've done this for so many years, but we never talked about it, right? We figured, people don't care, they don't want to know. They're not interested in the behind the scenes of how we care for whales. They're not interested in some of the scientific research. And I think that is one of the biggest things. If we have to look back and say, what would we have done differently? This is something we probably just should have been publishing all along, having it out there continually. This is not new efforts that we're undertaking. It's just that now we're letting our guests and our consumers and the general population know about it. As part of this Ask SeaWorld campaign, we really wanted to make sure we were getting the message out there in a multitude of ways, and we really harnessed the power of all of our team members. Across our parks, we hire more than 20,000 employees every single year. Some are year-round employees, but because of our seasonal operations, we hire thousands every summer and every winter for different operation periods. And we want to make sure that our team members have all of this information because they're the first person that interacts with a guest when they're in the park. The second thing we look at is making sure that all of our partners are aware. So when you think of when we partner with a grocery store, or we're going to go out there and partner with a retailer, one of the things that we wanted to make sure is that they felt a complete level of comfort with how we operate, that we had full transparency, and any questions that our partner may have had, we answered. And what we did was we actually invited them out for what we call a SeaWorld Stories. We invited them out to the parks, we took them behind the scenes, we allowed them to see our operations, meet our veterinarians, talk about our whales, and really ask some of those probing questions that they had heard in the media or heard through Blackish. And we were really able to help dispel any of those mistruths that are out there, and allowing us to kind of make sure that our partner and stakeholder base was on board with us moving forward. We had the same kind of conversations with all of the civic leaders in our communities. So when you think of tourism industry executives, hotel partner general managers, people that truly can influence how our business performs, we wanted to make sure that we also had that same level of transparency. So we launched a speakers bureau and an educational program to really go out there and be active in the community to make sure that, again, anything that we were facing from a reputation issue, we were able to talk about openly and transparently. Our brand loyalists are our past member base, the people that buy an annual pass to a theme park, the people that sign up for our email communication, and we have hundreds of thousands of them. People that buy a pass year after year, people that want to hear from us. So we have launched, again, through this Ask SeaWorld campaign, we communicate to them via email. They have to opt in, so we're not communicating to people who don't want to hear from us. But we, again, continue to invite our guests to have that open door communication. And then with the campaign that we launched just a few months ago, it's now out to the general consumer. So we want to make sure that, again, you're seeing it, you're hearing it. So not only may you hear a news story about animal activism, but you're hopefully also hearing our side of the story, and then you can make that critical analysis of what your beliefs are. And, you know, do you believe in animals, that zoos and aquariums have a purpose that help animals in the wild? And that's what we want to do. We want to spur that discussion so that each individual can make a choice that is correct for them. And that even includes being able to communicate to our guests in park. So one of the things that you'll see if you do go to a SeaWorld park is much more scientific and information about how we care for our animals, more guest-facing, and that's something that has been really appreciated by our guests. We have to balance that, though, with, you know, I do still, as a marketer, I have to drive people into the gate, you know, so I have to make sure that they actually want to come to our park. And most people want to just know, how are their kids going to have a good time at our park, right? You know, you spend a lot of money on family vacation. Moms want to make sure that everyone in the family has a good time. So she wants to know that there's something new for her kids to do at SeaWorld as well. And with that, we have a new marketing campaign to announce our Pacific Point Preserve.
Known in sea lion circles as the close talker. He loves meeting new people, and he shows his joy by waving his four flippers. Visit Leon at the all-new Pacific Point Preserve, home to up-close sea lion interactions, and our new show, Sea Lion High. And why not use an annual pass starting at $7 a month? Come meet Leon the lion and his waving four flippers. Only here, only at SeaWorld.
That airs in our local market, so it has a retail call to action, again, because it appeals to people that might want to come to the park over and over again. And then we also combine that with a water park message that we have as well.
One day you're enjoying the ultimate experience with up-close animal encounters at SeaWorld. The next day you're part of the action at Aquatica, SeaWorld's lush water park. Connect with sea lions at the all-new Pacific Point Preserve with a new show, Clyde and Seymour's Sea Lion High. Then ride the waves, the falls, and more. And now get an annual pass for both parks for just $10 per month with free parking and no blackout dates. 2 great parks, 2 great days, 1 great deal.
We combine that with out-of-home advertising, digital print, all of the traditional mainline advertising, as well as how we reach people mobilely with content. Part of that kind of getting the word out of what's new, though, is making those larger connections that Ron spoke about yesterday when he talked about the Seahawks and everything that they do from a promotional standpoint. But we really need to look at, and we did execute, ways that we got out into our earned media. So we did publicity tours, we gave construction updates, we went into the schools with a Sea Lion art contest, which gave us an opportunity to provide educational curriculum to kids that were in kindergarten through 5th grade, but also got them involved in the excitement of knowing that there was something new coming to SeaWorld. We channel our guest power, which is just because we have, again, hundreds of thousands of guests that come through our park in a couple of months' time. We wanted to make sure that we had in-park messaging to communicate our new attraction, utilized our email subscriber base, and then made sure that also the industry was aware with travel shows that we do, so that the industry was excited that we were bringing something new, a new attraction to San Antonio. And then looking at how we launch a new attraction, again, we really want to make sure that we get all of our key stakeholders on board. So we do things like VIP parties for the community civic leaders to make sure that they're aware of what's coming new to the destination. We want to make sure that our employees are aware, so we host very fun team member appreciation days around that new attraction. And then again, we're always looking for that new angle. So how can we break out this story that goes a little bit deeper into animal care and animal behavior? How can we launch our new shows a little bit? So we're always looking for new angles to kind of communicate our story. And leveraging partners. I think Ron spoke about this yesterday. It's like, how are you not always in advertising or in media to be able to get that conversion? And we really have modernized how we leverage partners, and we've made an active effort to really go after like-minded partners who are about making family connections in active ways. And so we have dramatically increased our partnerships, not only cooperatively with industry partners, with the San Antonio Convention and Visitors Bureau to promote tourism to our great destination. We also then are looking at how we are engaging those young advocates. So not only do we offer field trips at a great rate for schools that give them an educational curriculum where they're able to come out and talk to our marine biologists, they're able to talk to our veterinarians, but we also then bring our animals into schools to be able to do assemblies and programs that help round out their curriculum. We allow all of the teachers within the state of Texas to enter our parks free. We provide them with a free annual pass, as well as curriculum that can help meet all of the standards that they need to teach within that school. It's just another way for us to have content that's relevant and kind of ties back to what we do from an animal care perspective. And then we host hundreds of camps and tours every year. So you can come and stay at our park for a week-long camp, not only at the younger level, when you think of an overnight camp for a 7-year-old or an 8-year-old, but our behavioral medicine scientists and also all of our zoologists also host college-level camps for students that are thinking of going into a career in animal care. As I mentioned a little bit earlier, our sports partnerships, again, provide us a great foundation. So I'm a huge Spurs fan, but I love that we actually partner with them. And all of these, I think we look for ways that we can have a good brand affiliation, which is very important for you as marketers. Are you just partnering with someone to get that partnership, or do they really align well with your brands? And all of these are very strong community advocates, and so we align with them pretty well. They really kind of embody the same things that we do as far as looking for opportunities to create great family connections and create strong memories. So this is our portfolio moving forward for 2015 and 2016. And with that, I'll turn it over to any questions the group might have. Yes?
How do you prioritize your investment in those partnerships? Sources of money?
Absolutely. So the question was, how do we prioritize our investments with different partnerships? We really try to look at it on a valuation of how strong their brand is, how does the partnership allow us to collaborate together? So if we're going to be, I'll give the Spurs as an example, but if we're going to be in the community, is there some way or some philanthropic way that we can be together in the community to do well for San Antonio? And then really just also looking at how large of a share of the market do they have? So the San Antonio Spurs are a well-respected group. They have a lot of fan favorites. So aligning with them is a great partnership for us. Whereas some organizations may have a little bit of a smaller penetration and then would right-size our resources that way. Yes?
You mentioned in regards to the brand reputation and some of the things that you've done reactively following the controversy in the past few years, and mentioned that a lot of these things that you're talking about now you were doing before, but you weren't really sharing that message. So how do you kind of balance that messaging and really have it be authentic so that people don't see it as, oh, well, they're only doing this to be reactive? How do you really give it that air of authenticity so people know, this is something we've been doing for a long time, not just something we're putting together now because of what happened?
Yes. So her question was a great question. It's literally because of the reputation issues, how do we reposition our brand so that this doesn't feel like we're doing all of these efforts just because of the controversy that we've been going through. And I think the answer to that is really it's a long-term effort. We're trying to, with the @Ask SeaWorld, we are providing all of that content there historically of what we've done and opening that transparency. The second thing is really making sure this is a long-term effort for us. So this isn't a campaign that is like my summer campaign, and I can't just advertise it until August and then we'll be quiet. This is going to be a multi-year effort to continue to communicate, send out press releases. When we partner with Habitat for Humanity or United Way, things that we've done for years, now we're probably just going to constantly have that available and have that content available. And again, this is just going to change the way we do our business. The other thing that I think is important is as we look to expand, we are now also looking to expand in ways that provide access to behind the scenes for the general guest that might be interested in that. So as we're getting ready to deploy our new dolphin area, we're looking at ways that people can walk to the back areas and actually see our animal care team taking care of the animals behind the scenes. So we're trying to bring more of the back of the house operations out to the front of the house. Again, just to be more transparent. Yes?
Pretty much along the lines of that same question, just with the reputation battle that you're having, is there a way that y'all are quantifying or just seeing if you're winning or losing?
Yes, yes. So the question is, how are we measuring our key performance indicators of this research? I think one of the great things about SeaWorld is we have access to a ton of data. Sometimes that data can be overwhelming. We do a combination of quantitative and qualitative research. We actually started with research to kind of get what does the general consumer, let's see if this, okay, sorry, what does the general consumer think about the SeaWorld brand? And our initial research was that overwhelmingly greater than 65% of the general population has a favorable brand impression of SeaWorld. The second thing that was really interesting is that 73% of the US population never heard of Blackfish. So when you start to balance out these national surveys and what you're going to do moving forward, we literally have checkpoints where we're checking our brand health, and right now we're checking it more often. I think Ron said his company had checked it maybe every 6 months or so. We're now basically checking it quarterly, if not monthly, just to see how we're doing and how we're performing, to make sure that we're moving guest sentiment and that we're communicating enough, which I think is the largest challenge, is not only can you be communicating, but do you have enough weight behind it? I think the one back, yes?
I'd like to thank you for coming, because I know this was probably a little bit challenging to speak to an audience of people that are going to go zero in on the issue that you've been dealing with.
Yes.
So I just want to thank you for that. But I would like to get a little bit in your head. Blackfish didn't come out of nowhere. You knew that it was probably brewing, coming. So I was wondering if you could speak a little bit to the preparation process. I know you can't probably speak for all of SeaWorld, but reputation, how you planned some preemptive communication with both media and also your partners.
Yes, absolutely. So her question, if you didn't hear it, is knowing that Blackish was coming, how did we start to plan preemptively? And it's a great question. So the couple things that we did is we were approached by the Blackfish film to participate in the dialogue, and I think the challenge was, after talking with the director, we felt clearly that it was a biased film, that it was not going to show two sides to the story, that for us it was not at all a documentary, and we did not feel that we were going to be adequately or fairly represented. So we did decline to communicate in that meeting. We felt like there was nothing that was good that was going to come out of it. What we did do was really make sure that our team members and our employees were aware, and we did start to communicate to partners immediately through letters, through communication to have that communication upright. I will say, if there's anything that we can regret, it was just not realizing how quickly true misstatements and lies would be taken as gospel. And I think social media is certainly almost that wildfire of being able to, anything you hear or read on the internet is truth. And I think all of us, especially when you're in the graduate level, the one most important thing is that you have to be able to critically think. So if anything, I felt like we were probably a little behind in having a mainline advertising campaign that could reach the general consumer out there and communicate. But it truly is a very small, very vocal group that is engaged in animal activism. And the vast majority of U.S. citizens believe that there is value to having zoos and aquariums, and that animal connections and learning about animals is very important for the development of their children. Yeah. Yes?
So once it was like paired with Sundance, and then CNN decided to like partner with
Yes.
So what were like, I imagine you probably like went through this like, oh crap, maybe now we're like maybe a little bit in a crisis with it. So what were the immediate steps once it was like out in public, and now you have like something like a CNN and a Sundance thing that kind of made with it? What were your like initial steps to deal with that?
Absolutely. So we actually launched last year. When this started going out, we started communicating about it. We immediately started putting out much more web content. So we wanted to make sure that we were generating content. Things that we had documented over the years started to become part of the SeaWorld Truth email campaign, started to become part of the At SeaWorld campaign. So last year we started with a campaign that highlighted our veterinarians talking about killer whale activity. So we did start to kind of communicate immediately. It is unfortunate, there were a lot of airings of Blackfish. Netflix had it on. So trying to get ahead of that curve, we did get out there a lot with paid advertising, but we certainly felt like we had to do more paid advertising because more of the earned media was going to the negative aspects of it. Yes. I'm not sure which order to go into. Yes.
Diane,
Yes.
I have to say, one of the things I've noticed are the SeaWorld ads that have been on CNN with the trainers talking about how much they love the animals and the whales and that sort of thing. And I thought, you know, it might have been easy to just kind of let this die down. You've actually brought up the issue within your ads, and you know, granted it was SeaWorld in the busiest time of the year for you. So why did you decide to go that route with those ads?
We felt, and her question was, you know, we now have our campaign out there, and we are going head to head with what we feel are the most disturbing misstatements, that our killer whales are not cared for, that they don't live as long in captivity. We do not want the general consumer to have any doubt about who we are as a company or a brand. And so for us, I am not, if you are an animal activist and you do not believe that animals should be in captivity, that there should be no zoos in the world, that people should not have dogs and cats as pets, I can't change your mind. You know, that is what you believe, and you have that right to believe that. But if you have concerns about how we care for our animals, or that we separate mother and baby whales, we need to dispel that, because that's not true. And so those are things that we have in our power, and we felt that it was critically important for us to be able to get that message out. You as a consumer should be able to make that decision. And if you're an animal advocate, you probably will realize all of the good things we do. If you're an activist who doesn't believe in animals in captivity, I just probably cannot change your mind. Yes, I'll get to the side. I'll get this side next.
So my question is, SeaWorld is like a case study. You had your crisis management, reputation management, and what I'm referring to, and you might not refer to, as rebranding. So you started in the immediate dealing with it. Can you shed some light on just the timeline and the thought process that kind of has led you not to just be responding and reacting, but to really rebrand SeaWorld, even though you've been doing it for years? As you said, nobody knew it, so it created a new opportunity that didn't exist until this. I mean, you could have done it earlier. You said yourself, I wish we had, but you didn't. So you provide an opportunity almost, in a case study. Can you shed some light on that?
Absolutely. So her question is, you know, can I give a little bit more detail around the timeline and the thought for the rebranding efforts that are going on? So you are absolutely right. Prior to the animal activism and the Blackfish film airing, we had really, I would say, one kind of brand standard where we were really promoting more from a product standpoint, what you could do and experience within our park, right? So basically you could come to our park and enjoy the park, and here's the different rides and attractions that you can experience, because we had heard from guest research that that was important for a mom to be able to see that how her family, and envision her family enjoying the park. From a brand standpoint, once Blackfish started to air and really started to gain traction, that's when we came out much more defensively of, you know, let's set the story straight. Let's make sure that our argument is being heard. So we started developing content that was more revealing of our scientific side, things that were behind the scenes of the research and development that we provide, of the fundraising that we do, of the grants that we make. So we really started making sure that we were, one, creating content, as well as publicizing that through PR releases and pitching stories. As part of that, though, we absolutely have looked at moving into the latter part of last year and into this year, how do we change our overall brand messaging to be more of a purpose-driven brand, so that, again, when we're communicating to you that there are great reasons for your families to come to SeaWorld, it's also because we provide an educational message that your child will have an opportunity to learn more about animals that they may never see in the wild, and then also make sure that that has value to you, that that education and that connection and seeing your child grow and learn more and being open to learning more and getting inspired is so important. So you'll definitely see our messaging take on more of that approach moving forward to be a purpose-driven brand. Yes, I'm going to try this side of the room and then I'll go around to the others. Yes.
I actually have a completely unrelated question, because I noticed something else from your presentation. I've noticed that the tourist industry is expanding quite a bit. Not only are you guys expanding, but Disney is doubling in size. Universal has added the Harry Potter theme parks. I know, at least for Disney, a lot of it has to do with adapting new technologies. But I find it interesting that amusement parks are now expanding so closely out of the recession. How are you guys trying to market and spin all this new expansion when some people are probably still scared to be spending that extra money to travel with their families?
Yeah, so a great question, thank you. What she's asking is, coming out of the reception, not only is SeaWorld starting to expand, but Disney, Universal, there is a lot of capital development going on at theme parks for leisure dollars. And I think it's really striving from consumer confidence and consumer data that the recession is ending. So really, I think that started in 2008, and now we start to see year-over-year signs of growth increased travel that is making it worthwhile for investment to get back into these products. And so we definitely see it as the next couple of years to come, continuing to see increasing development. San Antonio happens, and I can speak a little bit more about San Antonio, happens to be really great. I think Texas, of any state, has weathered the economic downturn better than any state. They have the most diverse economic profile, business and industry from across several industries, healthcare, oil and energy, finance. So we probably have had less of a recession than other places. Yes?
When Ask SeaWorld first came out, I remember there was like a huge backlash for that too, because I remember article after article saying how SeaWorld was picking and choosing only certain questions. And I remember a specific tweet, and I looked up to try and remember exactly what it was, when SeaWorld tweeted that we were trying to answer your questions, but we have a few thousand trolls and bots to weed through. But now with research like Jay Baer's Hug Your Haters research, basically saying that if you don't respond to the negative criticism, that every single one, that your brand advocacy drops like something like 42% or something like that. I was wondering, did you shift the campaign a little bit after that backlash and that kind of crisis? Where,
That's a great question.
Yeah, where people were frustrated that they had to go onto a different platform other than just Twitter to get the responses and stuff like that.
Yep. He asked a great question. So basically when we launched the Ask SeaWorld campaign, there was a little bit of a controversy that we were not responding to everyone's communication, that we were picking and choosing who we were responding to. And the comment that came back out was that it was because of trolls and bots. So basically automated question answering, questions being generated. So what we wanted to try and do is really look at analytics, and this is where big data becomes really important. We really wanted to understand who is driving real questions. So, you know, this entire audience is asking such great questions, and we want to be able to ask your questions. But we could have one person who has set up an electronic program to ask thousands and thousands of the same question repeatedly. So how do we take what is less than 1% of the population of questions being asked by one person, and how do we kind of take that offline? Because again, we want to get, I'm not going to be able to change an opinion of an animal activist that is truly out to just attack us. So how do I go after the population that really does want to know more, that is trying to weigh, does SeaWorld have value? And I think that that's what is important. We do not want to get sidetracked from answering good questions and having good dialogue with our guests and people that are important to us by those that are truly just trying to really make sure that we're kept busy and derailed. And so I think that's what's so important, as you as a marketer have to be able to understand who is driving your business. And I'll give you a good example. The activists did start to attack some of our partners. And so what we wanted to do, again, they have a couple of activists. There's one activist who can easily tweet up to 9,000 times a month. You know, so having one person have that loud of a voice when your other 100,000 guests are giving good comments about you, we wanted to make sure that our partners, one, had information about it, but then we also had a partner who was getting attacked, saying that all these tweets were coming in, they were no longer going to work with that brand. When that partner did the research of something like 10,000 tweets that came to them, or guest complaints, if you will, only 2 of those people had ever bought a product from them in the last 3 years. So if you're not buying the product to begin with, you certainly have a right to boycott, but I don't know that I would need to spend my energies on you.
That's actually not true now. The research has changed, and they found that, you know, those people that don't buy the product can actually change with those responses to the negative criticism and increase brand advocacy with people that didn't interact at all. But that's just something that's new that's coming out with the, like I said, it's Jay Baer's Hug Your Haters research, which is something that you could probably apply to this situation too.
Yeah.
and it's a lot different. It's changed.
Yeah. Thanks. Yes.
What are the thoughts towards producing a corporate social responsibility report?
We actually have internally that we prepare. And we are starting to work on preparing an external. I'm sorry. She was asking about a corporate social responsibility report, and does SeaWorld have one? We have not. We are starting to work on those components to be able to share how much we recycle, what our conservation efforts are. So we are starting to work on that, especially being a public company. Being able to come out with a corporate social responsibility report is very important moving forward. So it's definitely something that we're working towards, and being able to release and have that available to everybody. Yes. Oh wait, let me grab. Yes.
Totally different question, but in terms of structure, how do you guys, you have different parks, so I'm just interested in like the structure of your marketing and comms team across
Yes.
those different parks, and then as a whole, because you're dealing with this issue as a whole, but I'm sure you have individual things that you have to deal with as well.
Great question. So she's asking about just organization. What does our marketing organizational structure look like? So we do have a total of 12 parks throughout the United States, and we have our corporate offices in Orlando, Florida. And so we have kind of a balanced approach of how we communicate. There are certain platforms that we have a centralized effort on. So our corporate team really helps lead a lot of our program and platform development that all the parks are able to use. So our e-commerce platforms, the mobile platforms that we use are developed at a corporate level, that those resources are provided to the individual park teams, but then the park teams are responsible for all of the consumer activation. How do we launch a new attraction? How do we promote our events? And how do we provide those market-centric messages for our guests? And I do have expert team members that specialize in social, e-commerce, traditional PR, advertising, and then especially important for us in the tourism industry, sales, hotel sales, tourism conversion, and all of those programs. Yes.
So you mentioned too about the fact that you have to make sure that everyone on your team is involved, from the people who are running concessions in your parks to everyone at the top. And when something like this happens, it's obviously has an emotional effect on everyone involved. So how do you really sort of bring them all with you when you do something like a rebranding and in the messaging that you're putting out? How do you make sure that everyone is on the same page and that everyone is a part of what you're trying to do?
Great question. She asked, how do we make sure with all of our employees, since they do have the most interface with our guests, how do we make sure that everyone's on board and aligned and able to kind of speak from the same brand story? So definitely, I think, number one, communication is critical. You have to be able to make sure that your employees are aware, and we do that through a multitude of ways. We do tend to hire a lot of new, younger adults during the peak summer months, and we have typically a 2 to 3 day onboarding experience where we kind of immerse them in what the brand is like, what the product experience is about, and make sure that they are aware of all of the communication assets that are available to them. We have daily communications to all of our employees through a company newsletter that changes and is updated daily. It's available to them not only through email, but when they check into their workstations, it's posted. And then the other thing that we do is we make sure that we have typically weekly department meetings, so that again, information and two-way dialogue can happen with our employees as well. So they're allowed to ask questions as well. They have access to their senior leadership regularly. And then we also hold routine employee events. And as we gear up for the summertime, we typically are having an employee event where all employees can get together on a monthly basis. Yes. Yes?
So what about you as an employee? A lot of us obviously work in marketing and PR roles, and some of us have probably survived crises, and some of us haven't gotten there yet. What advice do you have to us as marketers of just how do you get through something like this?
Great question. So she's asking, how do you get, as a marketer, how do you handle challenges? How do you handle crises? And I think a couple of things that are really most important is, one, you really have to rely on teamwork and collaboration. So you as an individual marketer, it's very hard to get the job all done by yourself, right? There's typically a team of people that actually help deploy messaging, that get it out to the various stakeholders. So again, I think communication amongst your team is critical. Don't be afraid to ask for outside help. There are experts in how to get messages out digitally, how to live in the social space, that if you yourself don't have the resources to handle it all internally, I think that that's important to be able to say, can you handle it internally, or do you need to tap into some expert counsel? And then I think the third most important thing is to really measure and review and adjust as you need. I think you have to understand, are you solving the right issue? When you align on a communication tactic or a marketing campaign, what are those key performance indicators that you're going to use to measure success? And then measure that and adjust as you go along. So, yes?
How much did you have to increase your marketing budget in defense from the movie, and how did you make the decision on how much?
I will tell you what we did was we really looked at resources across the parks, and we were able to kind of maybe shift tactics to help support the campaign. So we really wanted to look, and this is when we tapped into an outside media agency. We wanted to know exactly how loud do we need to be so that the average consumer we can break through. So I think knowing what budget there was, and then really looking at resources, even within our own budget, of what are programs that are fun to do, which is ones that are actually going to move the business. And that's how we kind of looked at it from an ROI standpoint. Up there in the top, sorry? Yes.
In my former life, I was a CVB director for over 20 years from different localities, and I'm curious about the support from the Convention and Visitors Bureaus. I know a lot of them, in my cases, we were funded by the lodging tax. People don't go to hotels to stay in hotels. Obviously, there's a destination that visitor has beds. So I'm just wondering, an economic impact, the CVBs, especially if they have to get any funding from local government on any level, is like banging your head against the wall, because a lot of them don't get tourism as an economic development. People come spend their money and then they leave. You're not building schools. So I'm curious as to how your CVB supported you, and especially your hotels. What kind of feedback you got?
Great question. So she was saying she had been involved in Convention and Visitors Bureaus for a long time. And how did our Convention and Visitors Bureau really help fund us? Did they back us? Did hotels back us? And the question is absolutely yes. Interestingly, San Antonio is one of the very few, especially of our size, city-run CVBs. So they are not an independent company. They do get their funding from what's called the hot tax. It's the hotel tax. So every time you stay in a hotel, there's an additional little tax that you get charged that then gets usually used to help promote tourism to your state or your county, and I'm sure West Virginia is probably very similar. They were very supportive, and just to kind of put some parameters around that, even with our controversy and the reputation challenges that we've had only very recently, SeaWorld San Antonio is the #1 tourist attraction in the state of Texas. So we drive San Antonio tourism. So we are a #1 destination. We are still a very strong brand. We're a family favorite. So we felt nothing but support from the hotels that were around us, the hotels that really rely on us to drive the summer travel business. And then also two things I think with San Antonio, not only are we helping to drive that overnight stay, which is funding tourism, in Texas, attractions, not all states have this, but we pay taxes. So we have to charge a sales tax on our tickets, and that really helps quality of life. So we pay millions of dollars in taxes every year based on the tourism that we drive that helps the roadways in San Antonio, helps fund schools and things like that. So they were very supportive. One more minute, one more question. Anything else? I am around. I'm happy to engage in any other questions that you have. I'm around for the rest of the day. Thank you very much for your time. I appreciate it.